Hello, my friends, and welcome to an episode of Tales from the Concrete Floor. If you happen to have watched my first episode that just got released a couple days and have subscribed to this YouTube channel, you may have noticed that the name has changed. I had set up the name as Between the Grooves, but as I found out, there's probably about another 15 channels with that name. So I decided to change the name to Tales from the Concrete Floor, which we will be discussing a lot of my childhood being spent at concerts, because I saw some amazing shows back in the day, and I'm going to love telling stories about that. So with that being said, the Between the Grooves segment is going to be about when we are talking about music on vinyl, which is tonight's episode. If you caught the title caption, is this the greatest EP ever made? The answer is yes. And of course, I am speaking of the one and only Metallica Garage Days Revisited, the $5.98 EP. I got this as a kid. I still have my original tape cassette of it. I do wish that I could say that this was an OG pressing of this, but sadly it is not. I lost a lot of albums at one of my houses when my basement flooded during a storm, and it was one of the casualties, so this is a reissue that I picked up. I guess I probably have this one now for 5-6 years, but because you can still go out and get this album, you can find it. It is definitely at your local music stores, and if not, you can definitely find it online, even though I highly recommend supporting a local record store, not Amazon. Anywho, let's get back to this album. This was, as I said in the title, and I truly believe this is the greatest EP of all time. Nothing else even comes close to it. Maybe Haunting the Chapel by Slayer, but overall, this is the pinnacle of EPs. And it also came out at such a time for Metallica. You have to think what they were going through at this point. This is just after their bandmate, bass player, friend, passed away, Cliff Burton, the legendary Cliff Burton, during the Master of Puppets tour, as we all know, passed away there in Sweden, and they went and recruited a young bass player from the band Flotsam and Jetsam, known as Jason Newsted. After the Master of Puppets tour, they went into the studio and decided to honor some of their favorite punk band thrash songs. So you have this incredible lineup of these 5 amazing songs, in which this album, 5 songs, 6 days to record this. And this was like at the height of their grief. This is the first time going into a studio with a new bass player. And this album shines with Jason Newsted. They really let the bass come through on this album. As we all know, the next full-length studio album was Injustice for All. And we all know what happened to the bass tracks on that album. But anywho, this album is, in my humble opinion, Jason Newsted's masterpiece with the band. You hear that bass thundering on every track on this album. So speaking of tracks, let's start with number 1, Helpless. This is a 7-minute, just pure in-your-face thrash song. All of these, as I said, are cover tunes from bands like Budgie, Bread, Misfits. So you have all these covers of the songs that they really wanted to play for this album. Helpless is definitely one of my favorite tracks on here, and just an absolute masterpiece to open up this album with. Then you move into kind of the slower and melodic, but very deep, very rich, and very, very heavy Small Hours. That song, that opening riff, when you get into it and it just starts to drop the hammer and then the bass line comes in. The Small Hours is one of the heaviest songs that I think Metallica has ever put out, period. Yes, it's a cover, but that doesn't matter. Heavy is heavy, and that is as heavy as it gets. Of course, you're moving on now to The Weight. Another absolute slammer on here. You get that harsh guitar twang that starts it off, rolling into the main riff. Both dual guitars of Hetfield and Hammett are just slamming on this tune. And then Jason Newsted's bass, as I stated, flawless on this. And then speaking of Newsted's bass, moving into the next track, which of course is Crash Course in Brain Surgery, which opens up with an absolute masterpiece bass riff for sure. I don't know if you're ever going to find another opening bass riff as cool and as heavy as Crash Course in Brain Surgery. And then finishing the album up, you have The Last Caress and Green Hell. Awesome Misfits covers there, and just true punk thrash on here. This album, I don't think gets enough recognition. Everyone wants to talk about the first 4 Metallica albums. Of course, Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Injustice for All. And this album somehow it gets lost in the shuffle. And I understand it's an EP. It's not a full-length album. But if you are a Metallica fan, this should be one of the tops on your list as a go-to listen to at all times. I cannot say enough about Garage Days Revisited, and I love the fact that when this came out, this was also one of Metallica's middle fingers to the music industry and all the corporate greed of that era and stuff. They priced this album at $5.98, and they put it right on the cover. So you went into your local record store in 1986, and that's what you paid for this. You did not pay any more. Now, of course, sadly, that marking means nothing. As we all know, this world is super expensive, and everyone is just out for greed and cash. But back in the day, you actually only paid $5.98 for this amazing album. This is a go-to staple record for me. This will always be one of my first grabs out of my collection on a Saturday afternoon when I'm ready to shred and listen to some great tunes. This is one of the first albums I am pulling. With all that being said, I will add a little small tale from the concrete floor to this episode. My first experience with Metallica was in 1989 for the Injustice for All tour. I got to see them in my town, Omaha. They played at a place called the Civic Auditorium. Unfortunately, their opening act was The Cult. And I don't say unfortunately for the fact that I hate the Cult. I'm not the biggest Cult fan, but they're not a bad band. But they were opening up for 1989 Metallica. This wasn't, the Cult could open for Metallica now and it would be fine. In 1989, it was not fine. They got booed off the stage pretty bad. You really couldn't even hear them play. The crowd was so loud, booing them, just wanting Metallica to hit the stage. And I have to tell you, when Metallica hit the stage, it did not disappoint. Still one of my top 5 concerts of all time, 89 Injustice for All. You didn't have your slowest song in the set. Your slowest song in the set was Fade to Black. They played for like 2.5 hours for everything from Blackened to Harvester of Sorrow to Master of Puppets, Leper Messiah, The Thing That Should Not Be, Kill 'Em All. Just everything. For Whom the Bell Tolls. It was what an absolute amazing show. Of course, one of my favorite jams from them is The Four Horsemen, and seeing that live in 1989, that alone was worth the price of admission. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I'm doing these videos. These videos are as much for me as they are for you, the viewer. I don't expect to quit my day job and become a YouTuber. I'm just doing this because I love talking about amazing music, amazing bands, and amazing concerts that I have been to. And if that is something that you would like to join me on, then please feel free to subscribe. If not, I just truly appreciate that you even clicked on this video and gave it a chance, and that I hope that you enjoyed it and maybe are inspired to go out and pick up this album and give it a listen. If you love metal, this is an album that must be in your collection. Well, until the next episode, my friends, as I said, I truly appreciate each and every one of you. And in these times and the world we live in, let's remember the most important thing: be kind to one another. Thank you so much.